I've been saying for a long time that shares in Keir Starmer are too high and that shares in Rishi Sunak are too low. And it's beginning to show in the polls. Hardly surprising that the current government, that's seen 3 new prime ministers in what feels like the last 10 minutes, and one which is presiding over a cost of living crisis and suffering the aftermath of a sleaze scandal, should be behind the opposition. But old Sunak has narrowed the gap, with the latest Delta poll survey revealing the Tories are up 8 points to 35 and are closing in on Labour. I think Keir Starmer's worst nightmare is beginning to play out, which is that the change that Britain needed following the mercurial premiership of Boris Johnson has happened already without the need for an election. It turns out that Sunak was the change candidate all along. He has changed economic course, aided by the reassuringly boring Jeremy Hunt. These two have won back the trust of the international bond markets, upon whose largesse we are now so reliant. The cost of government borrowing has come down, and notwithstanding an unexpected jump this month, inflation should be down to 2.9% by the end of the year. Sunak has also been willing to change the crowd-pleasing approach of the previous incumbent but one, Boris Johnson, by sticking with an unpopular policy of raising corporation tax. It may or may not be the right thing to do, but the messaging, which seems to be a big part of Sunak's recent success, is that he's willing to make the tough choices and is willing to be unpopular, not something you could say about Bojo. Sunak is pitching himself as the change candidate on illegal migration as well, following a deal with the French to build a massive migrant facility on French soil, which was widely seen as a win for Sunak, and a facility which, yes, will cost us millions, but will cost the French even more. It shows that the obstinate French can be collaborative in the right hands. And so far, Sunak's premiership has been characterised by tangible action and attention to detail. Again, a welcome change from the last guy. The Windsor Framework, the so-called Brexit breakthrough, legislation to stop illegal immigration, and the threat of tearing up the European Convention on Human Rights to unlock the Rwanda plan. Sunak is all about delivery. But Sunakism is about messaging too. Stabilise the economy, make Brexit work, fix the NHS, and of course, stop the boats. Now, the public aren't stupid and know that the migrant crisis is a deeply complex one, and they won't expect miracles. But the Tories are owning this story ahead of Labour. And if anything, the Gary Lineker soap opera helped the Conservatives, with Starmer once again showing a wild lack of political judgment by backing a privileged, virtue-signalling millionaire ex-footballer over red wall voters concerned about illegal immigration and who, not unreasonably, want something done. The migrant crisis is a humanitarian, economic and national security disaster, and tackling it could decide and dictate the outcome of the next election. Stop the boats is the new get Brexit done. And on this issue, Labour are out to sea. Then there's the brilliant AUKUS deal with Australia and the United States, of course, reaffirming Britain's position as a military superpower. There's progress on the widespread industrial action, the government having stood their ground to the union barons, but with deals for nurses, train workers, ambulance drivers and junior doctors hopefully in the offing. And then there is the presidential factor. Should the next election be decided around the idea of who leads Britain rather than which party, I think, again, it's potentially a win for Sunak. The 60-year-old Starmer is not without his talents, and his steady-as-she-goes persona and his forthright efforts to detoxify the Labour Party from the scourge of anti-Semitism deserve great credit. And he has made Labour far, far more electable. But compared to the young, thrusting Sunak, who has a twinkle in his eye, it's my view that Starmer looks a bit tired, dusty, old and puffy by comparison. Yes, the Tories have got more skeletons in their closet than Count Dracula. And post-Brexit and post-Boris, as a party, they still need to properly unite. That is not a done deal by any stretch. But the public won't quickly forget that the alternative, Keir Starmer, campaigned for a Corbyn government, campaigned to reverse Brexit, and still, to this day, will not go on record and define what a woman actually is. Why? Because he's got no balls. So it's all to play for next year. Anything could happen. And Mrs. Sunak might just be measuring up for new curtains at number 10 after all. That's if the Tories can pull themselves together.